And then sort of from there, it just sort of spiraled into different activities under the umbrella of the label. So I do a series of parties focusing on incubating underground DJs. It's a party series called Surreal Electronica with another label called Surreal Sounds. I'm also part of the She Said So network and Female Pressure, so international communities of women in the music industry. And I'm very passionate about amplifying the work of women and ensuring that, you know, we get our flowers where we can. Yeah, and that's me.
Cool, thank you, Jack. That's quite a resume, and I think what's really crucial there is the work that you're doing to empower your fellow female practitioners in the industry. And so maybe we could use that to segue to Sheba. Sheba, do you want to perhaps give us an introduction to your career, or how you got into the music industry? Can we switch over to you?
Sure. Thank you, Lance. It's lovely to be here, you guys. It's a great honor, obviously. The way I started my, I suppose, music industry career was sort of by accident. I was just out of varsity, didn't really know what I was doing. I was listening to a lot of music and I hadn't quite figured out what I wanted to do with my life. And I had a blog, a music blog, when we were just introduced to the internet, which nobody read, obviously, it was terrible. But I started sort of sending applications out for publications that were wanting to hire some new writers. And I got picked up by One Small Seed. And at the same time, I'd started doing voiceovers, and I'd first started with Campaign for Elle magazine. I listened for a year's campaign, just sort of introducing what was going to be in the magazine that month. And from then on, I got picked up by an agency. So before all that happened, I had no idea how anything worked. Music industry, media, none of that. And so I'd sort of made it my goal to try and learn what was going on in both sides and just sort of figure it out as I went. And as time went, I'd started writing for OK Africa, Afropunk, doing more and more voiceover, sort of campaigns, Standard Bank, Emirates, all sorts of things. And this has been going on for a few years now. I went on to curate some lineups for Design Indaba. Worked with some artists, Toy DeLazy for a couple of years. Worked with, when he was still called Mos Def, Yassine Bey, doing some campaigns when he was down.
Recording in progress.
There's so many things to go through, but basically wherever there are words and sounds and a need to communicate messages, especially when it comes to African artists. I'm a Malawian woman myself, a Malawian family, with mixed heritages. We often tend to see that stories don't get told in the way that sort of feels inclusive. So I thought, let me just stick to African publications, African artists, and see where we're going to be taking, all of the culture that we have so much on this continent, and how we can use that in a way that makes sense for us. So I try to sort of make it my, another one of my goals is to freelance most of the time, to be able to uphold my own business, be able to call in my own clients and things like that, and see if I could create the kind of freedom that, Black folks, especially working in cultural spheres, don't necessarily get to experience, and see how I could help people do that for themselves as well. So fast forward to today, here I am.
Cool, thank you. Thank you. That's amazing, Sheba. I mean, you're touching on such a huge variety of different aspects of the industry, which is so fascinating, and that's incredible broad range of experience, and especially what you're doing to connect musicians from across the continent. I mean, that's something that in my day in the music industry was something that was almost a dream, and yet it's become a huge part of the industry in South Africa today and Africa, and we'll touch on that later. But let's perhaps move to Katlego, if you could perhaps just give us an intro into your journey into the music industry.
Hi, thanks, Lance, and thanks for having me. Thanks to Pasha, Huru, Nando's, everybody. Quite an honor to be I feel significantly under-accomplished, introducing myself after the two lovely ladies. I am an advocate by profession. I'm a lawyer by profession. I got into the music space with my entertainment company. I had an events company back when I was 18 years old called Homecoming Events. It still runs today, runs a couple of properties, Homecoming Africa Festival, Fontaine, and the likes. From there, I got to meet, a lot of artists through the eventing platform that we had built. And through that, I was able to establish my entertainment law consultancy. So I've consulted for majority of top South African artists, represented them legally, and I'm currently heading up legal at Sony Music Africa. So I head up legal and business affairs at Sony Music Africa. Also own a couple of nightlife establishments, nightclubs, the likes. Yeah, that's my relationship with music.
Thanks so much, Katlego. That's also very, very cool to hear that perspective, because that's a crucial part of the business of music, is the legal underpinning that sort of back ends the entire industry, where you're dealing with copyright and you're dealing with law, which is something that in South Africa is definitely an area that needs development. And to see you there at Sony Music, we won't hold that against you. That's an incredible achievement, and doing some amazing work, and especially your experience in the live sector and owning venues. That's absolutely crucial as well. So we'll get back to that as well. And let's move to Foster, DJ Foster, the legend. Tell us a bit about your background and how you came to be at the incredible Bridges for Music Academy in Langa. Over to you, Foster.
Thanks, Lance. Hi, guys. My real name is Tulani Headman, but everyone knows me as Foster, DJ Foster now. So basically, I come from a musical background family, the Ngugana family, and my father being a musician, the late Cyril Ngugana, my uncles, Duke Ngugana, Ezra Ngugana. They were all affiliated within the music and kind of like known as the jazz pioneers. Even my great-grandfather, Ram Ngugana. So yeah, man, I guess it's been in my DNA, for the rest of my life. However, in the late 90s, I started getting into music by obviously being influenced by jazz, hence I grew up in the family that was quite inspired by jazz music. And in the late 90s, I kind of like shifted, being introduced into Kwaito music. I then started producing Kwaito music. And later on, obviously, my life, growing up in the township, the challenge of the township and not having role models, I kind of like got caught up in the wrong side of things, and then ended up doing wrong stuff. And however, got in prison. And after that, when I came out of prison, I kind of like wanted to be the change. Hence, I then named myself Foster. I started my own label. I think that was 2005. 021 Records, and produced a couple of songs which were well received in South Africa. And around 2012, I met Valentino Barriozetta, who's the founder of Bridges for Music, and he kind of like had this idea of utilizing his networks and kind of like inspire the youth of disadvantaged communities by hosting workshops, and that's how we started Bridges South Africa. And then later on, just fast forwarding, we then came up with an idea of actually creating a learning space. Hence, we feel that the music industry was kind of like lacking of knowledge, especially a lot of young artists that wanted to be in the industry, lacking a lot of knowledge and also resources. So that's when we kind of like came up with an idea in 2014 to build the academy, and we officially opened our doors in 2019. That's where I'm currently at now. I'm the co-founder of the academy, and kind of like run and manage the day-to-day work of the academy. I'm still a DJ. I'm still producing music as well, an entertainer. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Foster. That's an amazing story as well, and the work that you're doing, and that the facility that you've set up in Langa is incredible. I've been lucky enough to go and see Bridges. It's a fantastic facility, doing incredible work and much needed work. And so interesting to hear about your background, and I think the common thread between all our stories is that we're passionate about music. That's the starting point. My story is got into the music industry, started an independent label in the early 90s in Cape Town with rock musicians, and realized very quickly that it's a very tough industry, and I went on to spend many years working for different labels and come from a label background. But I remember early on the passion that I had to get into the industry was around music. You're inspired by music, in my case, South African music, I think in many of our cases, by our own music and musicians, which is really cool. And then from there, once you're in the business of music, you realize very quickly that the dynamics are, your passion can quite easily become diluted, or you can get distracted by the business, because the business end really, it is a business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. And I worked for many years for a major record company, and learnt very on was taught by some very senior people that, people get into the music business for various reasons, and not always the right reasons. But if the passion is there, and if you start with that, and you keep that, and you manage to maintain that, then obviously it can be a very rewarding business opportunity for you. So let's just quickly come back to you, Jax. In terms of the music industry now, I'm talking about myself starting in the early 90s. I left the record industry business in 2012, and I think things have rapidly changed in the industry since then. And I think the advent of obviously technology and social media and now streaming has changed the game completely for South African artists, or for African artists for that matter. So could you just we'll go around and maybe give me a snapshot of what your take currently is on the state of the music business in South Africa and Africa?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. But I think in South Africa, I think it's a very exciting time for music. South Africa's pioneered and has a history of pioneering, genres that people take to internationally. So obviously now with Amapiano, it's one of many. So being able to see artists finding a home, finding a place, not only locally but internationally with their music, is for me something that's very exciting right now. That's the one thing that I'm most excited about. The other thing, obviously, is, like you said, with the advent of technology, the internet has opened up so many doors, and people are able to collaborate with each other and connect with each other in so many ways. We're still, I would like to think, a relatively developing music sort of industry, but I think, even just by looking at some of the people on the panel today, like Katleho, young people are coming up into the industry, and they're doing amazing things to build it and to develop it. So for me, those are the three things I think that are really, really exciting for me right now.
Thanks, Jax. And you work with some of the hottest young Amapiano artists. We'll mention a couple of names. Amos is one of them. Doing the Amapiano genre is something that we'll touch on later. I'm sure everybody is aware of it, but the story of how Amapiano is taking the global stage is an incredible story that wouldn't possibly happen without technology and social media. That creates its own challenges, but we'll get to that. Could I switch through to I can't remember my running order, but Sheba, could you perhaps give us your take on the industry, the current state of the industry right now?
Well, like Jackie had said, things have changed quite a bit, and we're in an exciting time. But I think that especially after the sort of mind shift that happened during the height of the pandemic, where everybody was forced to look at themselves and the arts and the music industry in a completely different way, we're now starting to see the cracks in the systems that are upholding our music industry. So, obviously when I first started out, things were very different. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have social media. From a journalistic standpoint, we were the ones who would say, let's go out and find some great artists, and we'll write about them, and we'll let everybody know that these guys are doing amazing things. And then they'll jump onto that, they'll listen to it, then they'll chat on the radio, whatever the case may be. And we were kind of the ones who were setting the tone for what was happening with popular music, for example. And then the internet came along. a lot more people had a DIY approach. There were a lot more opinions that could sort of float to the surface. And there's a lot more control when it comes to sort of the destiny of music and music makers. And so, you know, from a journalistic standpoint, things flipped, you know, things like PR, music writing reviews, all of those things, curation as well, had become really, really important to sort of finesse and to really sort of understand what people, audiences, you know, listeners were really looking for and what they really enjoyed, and how to sort of balance teaching people about new things, but also trying to sort of deliver something that people could engage with. So there's a definite sort of role reversal or a little bit of a switch when it comes to how we kind of consume music on the internet, whether, you know, it's online or traditionally, but just sort of in the public space as well. I think that, you know, just with the fact that people are creating music to express themselves, you know, beyond just being a performer, you also have to kind of perform success. So it's not just about succeeding in the music industry, but performing that success as well. Not just on the internet, but, you know, when you pick up your kids from school after, you know, a long day of recording or whatever the case may be, there's a different way that artists and creators are expected to carry themselves. And so we're still obviously navigating what that means in 2021, how we can protect ourselves when it comes to intellectual property. I'm sure Katlego can go on about this a little bit later, but we're more aware of our environments and how it affects us and how we can use the tools that we have, you know, accessible at our fingertips, but also the fact that now we need to be very mindful about how much energy we put into expression and teaching and curation and all of these things in a way that doesn't sort of take from us. So I think that we're having much more of a human experience around music and the way that we consume it and the way we talk about it, the way that we share it. And I think that's a good thing. It's a difficult thing when you consider that there are still very few places where we can learn how the music industry works, how the business works, what we need to know, when we need to know it. And there's a lot of information and a lot of music. So yeah, it's an interesting time. It's exciting. Like I talked about on the piano, new things are coming up every 5 minutes. And it's great to be able to be here to see it unfold, I suppose.
Cool, thanks, Sheba. I mean, you touched on some crucial things there, especially about mentorship, but also about how you narrate the story and how important that is to the packaging and then the dissemination, I guess, of the music. You also talked about some, you know, the rights issues and the explosion of all this new technology and streaming and social media has created a whole new legal framework. And so I think that's a good segue to Katlego. Maybe give us your perspective of how the industry is now in terms of the rights issues and the legal side of it, which is obviously, you know, hugely important now as the industry goes global on a massive scale from South Africa and from Africa.
Yeah, it's a very broad topic, you know, and we could touch on a lot of things around that. But I think the one thing that really drove me into the space and was really not so much protecting artists' rights, but doing what's currently happening now in terms of professionalizing the music industry for Black independent artists. And I think that has been our biggest goal, to say, look, we'll protect your rights, but let's help you understand them. Let's help you understand how they operate. Let's help you understand how to run your indies. And that's why I know some of our proudest work is what we've done for piano, you know, finding all the disagreements, finding all, you know, the black as brown mess or the piano hub mess, and saying, how do we clean all of that up? But how do we not clean it up in silence in our offices? How do we clean it up in front of you and talk you through it and show you how it works? How do we help you to be independent labels that can still operate and show up on the charts and still get your agreements out? And that was all sort of the underlying tone for it all was all based on fairness. Because we said to them, you know, we got to teach you not only to do your business right, but to be fair to other creatives, because that's how you're going to foster the culture. So, you know, it's adding principles into ethics, adding ethics into the business of music and into the legality of music, because a lot of the exploitation that has happened over the years has been from unethical legal practitioners who've passed down, you know, unethical practices. And so people then went on, and some legends of our game went on to exploit people, thinking it was the right thing to do. And ours has been a corrective approach, to say, let's correct that, let's undo that, let's teach you, let's empower and equip you. And even me coming to a major, I needed to get permission from all our artists. So look, guys, allow me to that side. Let's go learn more. Allow me to go learn more. Allow me to understand how the system actually works. So we can come back and empower you, because the more we know, the better we understand, the more we know to look out for, the better we know what to protect. And so for me, the most exciting thing in South African music has been professionalization, seeing the managers come up, the agents come up, the legal practitioners come up, the label accountants, come up, and see people get into that shape and space of wanting to know how to operate ethically, legally, and professionally. That excites me, because that means then the culture is safe.
Absolutely crucial insights there. I mean, I said it earlier, the legal aspect underpins almost everything in the industry. And you're absolutely right. We come from a place where exploitation was, it was the order of the day. And that is something that, clearly you're passionate about, is changing that narrative. It's so crucial. And you also touch on in that about how education is important and how learning is so important in teaching. So Foster, I mean, at the Bridges Academy, I know you guys have run a very diverse syllabus, which is amazing, but you also teach aspects of the music business. So do you want to maybe touch on that, and then also some of the other parts of your curriculum that you guys work on at Bridges?
Yeah, thanks, Lance. I mean, like we definitely feel that trying to empower upcoming talents with knowledge. It's quite powerful, and very important. Because that's what our industry, needs. Because, I mean, especially coming from disadvantaged communities, I mean, there's a lot of disadvantage. Guys cannot afford to go to universities, to further studies in order to understand how business runs and so forth. And that's why we are here, to try and close that gap, to bridge that gap actually, and try to empower these guys with a lot of knowledge. And not only do we focus on that, I mean, but it's quite exciting, the current times now, because I mean, I'm looking back, and one of the reasons why I started my own label back in the days was because of being sick of major labels, having knocked on many major labels, and also feeling that, the industry was kind of like monopolized. And it's quite surprising, and I always share this. I mean, how we started as I mean, at that time, we kind of like had mixits, and I mean, that was a common social media and Bluetooth. And actually how we got our music out was identifying our market, and we used universities in Cape Town. And we actually physically went out there to share our music, and that kind of like assisted us, on publishing, or kind of like informally publishing the music to the whole of South Africa. However, like our like at that time, we kind of like had a different approach. We were creating a demand basically on getting our music out there, and with obviously with the intentions of trying to generate revenue out of performances. And I mean, looking at how the industry has changed now, I mean, a lot of artists are actually owning, their products, which is quite great. And I mean, as Katlego has mentioned, a lot of guys have kind of like fast track in terms of learning. And basically that's what we do here at the Academy, trying to make sure that the guys are well equipped, to tackle the, like the real world. I mean, we always say, the music industry out there, there's always sharks who are waiting to grab you the opportunity. So it's very important that we kind of like get the guys to the right space. So our program is kind of like designed around 3 pillars, and one of them is entrepreneurship, and that's where we kind of like focus on also looking at finances, how to manage your finances, looking at your bank statements, for instance, because you'd find that a lot of youngsters, when they want to get in the music industry, the only thing is they probably want to be that DJ, that person that stands in front, the DJ or the vocalist. However, they kind of like are not aware that they are actually unseen careers behind that one famous DJ. Your management, your accounting, your finance team, and so forth. So what we are trying to do at the campus, we're actually trying to expose those roles as well. So as much as I said, the program is designed around 3 pillars, which is entrepreneurship, music production, and mindfulness. We also feel that it's very important to kind of like get our creatives in the right space of mind before they could actually be able to kind of like get in class or kickstart an entrepreneurship class or a music production class. I mean, bear in mind that we're dealing with guys that are coming from different backgrounds, disadvantaged backgrounds. So it's very important that we kind of like they get into that right space of mind. And I mean that's what we are facing in our communities nowadays. So I mean, yeah, like that's been our main focus, and it's been quite successful. I mean, nowadays we've got a great outcomes of artists that we can say that have came through the program, and we are still keeping in contact with them, trying to nurture them, and also introducing them to our networks, our international networks.
Thank you, Foster. And just to touch on that, one of your graduates, phenomenal singer, Bonga Kwana, who is signed to Platoon, which is a big multinational talent incubator. I'm not quite sure, but incredible success story. And recently, I think today, she's released her second single. So she's graduated through the academy, and is a budding success story. And she will be live at Basha Uhuru. Had to get it in on at the main event on the 30th of this month. So Bonga Kwana, a success story. So let's just, for the next segment, because I don't think we've got too much time, but I wanted to just continue that discussion around mentorship and the importance of that in the industry, especially in the South African context. We recently, here at Con Hill at Flame Studios, partnered with the Bridges Academy, and we hosted what we call the Bridgefire boot camp or talent accelerator over 3 days. And in fact, all the panelists today were mentors and involved in the Bridgefire event, which was phenomenally successful. And Jax, maybe you want to just tell us a little bit about that mentorship angle and how important it is from your perspective, and what Bridgefire meant to you.
Sure. I think I look at my own career, and there are definitely people who I can say were instrumental in me being where I am, even if it was just picking up the phone and asking them a question, or, like just trying to find out information. Like I remember when I started my label, like I didn't know what to do. Even now they say it, I'm like, how do you do this? Like, how do you, all of this finance stuff, accounting, and all of like paying people, not paying people, and all of that stuff. And it's all stuff that I'm still learning. And it was mostly possible through mentorship. And it wasn't necessarily that the relationships were set up that way, where I said to somebody, can you please mentor me? But it was definitely, a situation where people made themselves available, made their time available, made their knowledge accessible to me in so many ways. And so I feel like mentorship is very, very important, particularly because we don't have a lot of places where people can actually go and learn about the music industry. Even people who go to music schools in this country don't learn about the music business when they are there in the way that they should. So I feel like mentorship is very important, and if you have an opportunity to pass that knowledge on to somebody, then do that. Make the time. It doesn't have to be 20 people. It can just be one person. So that's why I appreciated Bridgefire, because it's something that I am very passionate about, particularly for women. And I love the fact that Bridges for Music, acknowledges that, and they're very deliberate about ensuring the participation of women as producers, as singers, as entrepreneurs, and being very deliberate about that, because there aren't a lot of women in the industry in particular positions that can sort of pass on the type of knowledge that we need to get into these different spaces in labels, or whether it's, on the back end or even on the front, because a lot of people just think women should be vocalists, or dancers, and then, a lot of the time you'll get a lot of managers or PR people, but like Foster was saying, there's so many roles in the music industry. So just being able to let young people know that there's a lot that you can do, And if you do need help, then there's somewhere to go and there's somebody to talk to, I think is very important. So yeah, mentorship, I would say, yeah, mentorship matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely crucial. Thanks, Jax. And also maybe we could, Shiva, maybe your experience as a woman in the industry as well, touch on that and mentorship, and also tell us a little bit about what, Bridgefire meant to you. Be interested to hear.
Oh, goodness. Bridgefire, just the concept on its own, along with Bridges for Music and Bridges Academy, is extremely rare. It's difficult to find that much information with that many people willing to spend time and energy in just passing on that knowledge. So I'm really, really grateful that we even got to do this. At first I was a little bit sort of, tentative, because I thought, head mentor, this is a lot of pressure. Oh my goodness, why me? What am I going to do? But I think that once you have these artists in front of you, I mean, there are 10 of them. It doesn't seem like a very big number, but these are 10 lives that are just as impassioned by music as yours, as all of us that we're sitting here right now. And we all have come to the music industry because we felt like it was a calling. And I think that once you sort of hear that call, you do what you need to do to keep listening and to keep sort of seeing your personhood sort of reflected in the kind of things you can do in the world. And so for me, it was amazing to see people who were just starting out or feeling unsure sort of mirror the kind of feelings that I had when I was just starting out and feeling unsure. And, I looked at my own journey and I thought to myself, I would never have gotten to this place. I mean, I've started my own company called Mount Makeda Media House at the beginning of 2020. But before that, obviously, there was a little bit of I had my own thing going. I was writing and I was curating, but at a certain point, because I suffer from epilepsy and ADHD, I had to decide whether I was going to keep working in an office and try to get jobs, or if I was going to build my own thing. And so going from working with Black Major and with Platoon, and then sort of coming to this year and saying to myself, well, maybe I don't need to get hired. Maybe I just need to keep doing what I've been doing and see who is going to sort of respond and resonate with the kind of person that I am and the kind of business owner that I am. And I think that's really important as well. People feel a lot of pressure to go to majors, to go to big companies, to go and find people who will hire them and give them the sort of, I suppose, affirmation that they're searching for, when really you can build it yourself. And I think that that's integral to what Bridgefire has been doing, to say you can do this on your own. You can go out and you can find somebody, not necessarily on your own, but you can find people who are willing to pass on the knowledge to help you get from one step to the next. And that definitely happened for me. So when I look back on my journey, I remember all of the people who said, hey, I've seen what you've done. What about this? For, no strings attached, just saying this resonates with me. Maybe we could do more. And when you're able to sort of go through that process of meeting someone, I mean, just some of the names that I would love to drop: Trantones, Norwegian rights specialist. I mean, he's, founder of Bilam Festival, amazing, full of knowledge, knows all about music rights and distribution. Michael Stangl from Boiler Room, he's at CTM Festival now, literally just reached out and said, I see what you're doing. How can I help you? And I think this "how can I help you" is a very powerful statement, because in the end, it does trickle down. So to be able to come to this kind of platform and to be able to say, how can I help you, I think is in itself a superpower on its own. So we need to be able to do more of that. And, I'll pass the mic on to Kadleho over here. I just feel like, we really need this, especially in South Africa. And you consider when we, see how African music industries and territories operate differently depending on the country that you're in or the people that you're dealing with. You need to have your eyes open and you need to have an open mind when you're approaching all of these different sort of elements, because not everything works the same way. Not everything is going to be done through majors or through, massive companies. You're going to have to find people who are willing to show up even for a short amount of time to say, I have these skills to get you from A to B, even if I don't know A to Z. And that's important. You just need to get from one step to the next. You don't have to know everything, but you need to be able to reach out to each other and say, collectively, how far can we get together and see what we can build from here?
Cool. Well, that amazing insight, and especially about, your journey, which is really a story of empowerment. I mean, that's really an incredible, you're doing it to yourself. You're not waiting for, anybody else, and you're picking up mentorship where you can, but you're just doing it yourself, which is brilliant. So, Katlego, do you want to just pick up on your experience around the Bridgefire event, and what it meant for you to engage with the participants, who all young up and coming artists? Could you take it from there?
Yeah, man. And if you'd allow me to speak very frankly, as I prefer to do, I was very encouraged to see white people involved in knowledge transfer. And I say this because I just look at the history of where our country comes from, right? And it's always been who's got the power, who's got the access to resources, and what are they doing with it? And, when I see platforms of that nature, it really excited me, because I was like, okay, everybody's coming to the party now. It's not only just, a few good Samaritans and, of their own accord. It's kind of like, it's going to take everybody, and it's going to take those with more to do more. It's going to take, everybody has to take what they have at their disposal and kind of say, sure, I could hog this and get rich and die with my riches, but what state do I leave the game in? And seeing people take that collective responsibility for the state of South African music then puts us in a position like this, where now for the first time we might be in a position to successfully export a sound and actually profit from it, and actually have our people profit from it. And even coming into a major, I know people always like side-eye me, and it was always like, major. But it's also kind of like, okay, but who's coming in to mentor the majors, to conscientize them, to teach them about the market, to show them the gaps, to show them, how they could be servicing better, how do, it's same thing with the aggregators everywhere. And it's the understanding that there is not going to be a Damascus moment for South African music where things suddenly change. It's Foster, Sheba, Lance, Jackie, Katlego, every day waking up with whatever room space, scope, or scale that they have at their disposal, not only using that to impact positively, but reaching out to teach. We're about to start entertainment law internship programs and scholarships and bursaries to kind of say, with the little that we do have, let's get it out there. Because you see, what the belief seems to have been in the past, and by the past, I mean, we could be talking as far back as 20 years ago. It's kind of like, let's get a small group of us together, let's bang, let's get hot, let's make money, and let's wear the crown. Whereas what you're seeing now, it's kind of like, hey guys, there's enough crowns for everybody to wear. So let's share more, let's share the pie, let's collaborate so that we can be able to export this out. Because if we don't unite and take it out together, somebody's going to come in and poach it from us. So for me, it's the responsibility aspect, to see people putting up their hands and saying, it's fine, I'm not going to wait for Superman. I will be Superman, Superwoman, Rabubi, whatever.
No, that's absolutely right. And again, it's an empowerment story, right? I mean, there are enough crowns for everybody. And I love what you said about, white people. That's you can't avoid it. It's something that, the balance of power, and it's completely changed in the industry. I think it's still got a long way to go, but it's a very important topic, and we can, maybe for next year, we can delve into that. But I just want to, we're running out of time, and we're going to take some questions from the floor, I think, and we've got some online feedback. So Foster, could you maybe just, wrap up this segment around Bridgefire, and how, it perhaps opens up opportunities for those participants to then be part of, Basha Uhuru. I mean, this workshop is literally halfway between Bridgefire and Basha, and shout out to Nando's, for backing, not just the music elements, but also the visual art and the design elements of Basha. So Foster, maybe just quickly give us a summary of your experience around Bridgefire, and what it might mean for some of those participants going into Basha.
Sure. For me, guys, Bridge Fire was quite an amazing concept, that like that we curated as Bridges for Music. But my most takeaway, Lance, I'm sure we've all experienced this, was actually the participants, the hunger that they had, and the willingness of wanting to learn. That was the most important, takeaway that I kind of like got from there. Because you can create or design a concept like that, but if you kind of like lacking people that want or need this knowledge, it will not be a success. And all the 10 participants were amazing, and you could actually you could tell just by their show ups, on a daily basis, so it was quite amazing. And there are super awesome opportunities that we are trying to create with the guys. And Bridge Fire would not have been possible, with companies such as Nando's. Nando's is playing quite a huge role, on assisting the creative industry in South Africa. And I so wish that more corporate companies could actually see what Nando's is doing and start following, because we could make, together we could create a huge impact, And for Pasha Uhuru as well, it's such a great platform. And I'm actually excited that we're going to be seeing some of these artists actually partake and do performances in the Pasha Uhuru platform. So for me, it was quite exciting, and there are some greater opportunities that are actually coming on the participants' way, because now we've been actually in talks and trying to publish the music with Nando's UK, to try and create more opportunities so that we can take these guys' talents, across the whole world. So there are definitely amazing opportunities coming, and we will definitely keep in contact with the participants, to try and empower them and try and nurture their journey within the music industry. Yeah.
Thanks, Foster. Absolutely spot on. The evolution from workshops, from guidance, from mentoring to the stage at Basha. And Basha, shout out to Constitution Hill as well, to host, and has been hosting and initiated Basha Uhuru, many years ago. And what a platform for young artists, not just musicians, but the creative industry sector, to come together and in what is essentially a very communal and almost a sacred space at Con Hill. I don't know if you can hear the cheering outside, but there's a specific, unique energy around Con Hill. I think that brings and unites people together, and that's really what Basha Uhuru is, and it's a celebration of creativity. So end of the month, make sure that you participate, that you're here. And I think to close out, just want to say thank you to everybody for participating. It's incredible to hear your stories, and your input is hugely valuable. So I think thank you and all the best, and we'll see you at Basha.
Yeah.
And I think at this point we're going to take some questions from if there are questions in the audience. We've got a couple that have come through online. So maybe while the audience, gets ready, let me quickly go to a question that has actually come through for you, Jackie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Miss Jackie, when it comes to collabs, what inspires you from an artist which makes you want to work with them? How do you know that this is an artist I want to work with? Because all your collabs are the bomb. That's from Sia on Zoom. So that's a very important aspect of the industry, the collaboration part of it. And so you can take that one, Jackie.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Sia, for the compliment. When I think about working with artists, how it normally works in the sort of mechanical way, someone will send me the music, I'll listen to it. If I like it, I'll write to it. But after a few years of working in the industry, I found that there are some things that are additional to just liking the music. So then it's also like the type of person I'm working with, particularly as a woman in the industry. I'm very, very particular about the types of people that I work with. And then also, I mean, as an artist, just for like general advice, it really depends. Like collaborations can be vehicles for your career to move forward. So while I know, like for house music vocalists, everybody wants to work with you, but not every song works for you. Is what I always tell people. So you can work with a whole bunch of people, but some of those collaborations won't necessarily move the needle. So sometimes it's a creative thing, and sometimes it's a strategic thing. So if I want to do a collaboration with someone and they're releasing on a label I haven't released on before, and I'm quite keen to work with that label, then I'll do it. So over the years, there's become a lot more sort of thought process that's gone into my collaborations than I initially had, because when I started out, I was just like singing with everybody and playing music with everybody, which was fun. Like, don't discount that, please. Have that moment, that time. But I think if you want to be a musician as a career, of which I'm not, I'm like more like a hobbyist, so I'll do music here and there, but when you're working as a musician, collaborations are very, very important about like what markets you can access through collaborations, what audiences you can access through collaborations, how you move your career from one sort of genre to another, So, yeah, for me personally, I have like kind of like a checklist that I go through, but just, for the sake of giving useful information to everybody, that would be my advice, yeah.
Cool, thanks, Jackie. And that's good advice.
Thank you.
It's an absolutely crucial part of the industry. And this last question, I think, and then we're going to wrap up, comes from Johnny Matuba, and he's asking everyone, so I'm not sure how we're going to do this technically, but what role do you think music awards play in the growth and development of music in Africa? And he's talking about the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce hosting music awards Pan-African Music Awards in Durban in next year. So that's an interesting question. Maybe
I've spoken already, so maybe let's give someone else a
can we maybe get some input from Sheba? What do you think about music awards?
Sheba should answer this one.
Guys. Well, I think the idea of a Pan-African, music award sounds really great. It's nice to be able to see all of us kind of moving in unison. I don't want to say for a change, because that would be cheeky, but to see, what we could do sort of as a unit, as a continent. I think award shows personally, though, it depends. It depends on who's selecting nominees, who's auditing, what kind of music are we going to be embracing? Who is the audience? I mean, there's a lot of thought that has to go into these things. So, I mean, when we consider the growth and development of music in Africa, I don't think it comes with award shows. I don't think it comes with chasing whether you're a creator or a creative or, a music industry exec or anything. It's nice to be motivated by an award. But whatever your goal is, as long as you're striving to reach it, whether it's an award or not, I think that's the point. Other than that, I think that if you're just wanting to have fun, get dressed up, see and be seen, and really just enjoy being together in the same room after, your hard graft, music awards are great. It's a great thing to aim for. But yeah, like I said, it depends. It really depends on how they're built.
Oh, that's very true. Thanks, Sheba. And you touched on an important thing. You also in the industry to have fun. If you're passionate about it, you want to express, and that's a large part of what the industry is about. Having fun. It is a business, and it can be a cruel and a shallow money trench, as someone once said many years ago. But it also is an incredible vehicle to empower people in South Africa, and especially young people. Males, female. Everything, and it's I think in South Africa we uniquely poised and placed to take advantage of the modern music industry, how it's evolving. And I just want to thank all the panelists today for incredible insights, and I hope you guys out there have learned something, and I hope that you take it to heart and you don't lose the passion if you get distracted by the business side, because there are people that can can help you. And that's an absolutely crucial thing to understand. So on that note, thank you again. Don't forget Basha Uhuru at the end of the month. It's going to be a live audience again. We're emerging from this crazy period, and fingers crossed things are going to return to some sort of normalcy quite soon, and people will be at festivals and enjoying the communal spirit that music brings and brings people together. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Conhill. Thank you, Basha. Thank you, sponsors. Thank you, Nando's, for allowing this platform to happen. And it's very, very important that we do this. And everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you at Basha. Thank you. Take care. It's hot out there. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.